we have a Graph Builders office hours. And let's go ahead and give this a try. I'm going to be streaming to Discord and also streaming to all the other locations all at once. So please, if you can bear with me as I set up right now. Let's go to
Super
it.
stream.
Bam. Yes, all the stream.
Uh-oh.
Come on.
You're lagging a little bit.
Discord.
I don't know if
I
that's
know,
me or
right?
you, but
We'll find
that's
out. Here we go.
always the best timing, when your internet starts to act up.
Right. Let's see. Here we go. Why is that not working? Interesting. Live streaming. The live stream is not actually loading up right now. I'm going to try to stream from the Graph's YouTube. And let's see. Are we going?
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's working.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. All the things happening. This is why I usually have Yana helping out with this. Nice.
Gotcha.
Okay. Sign in to confirm you're not a bot. Oh no. This is fun. Here we go. Sign in.
Well, we're definitely live on YouTube, so that's good.
I know. Yeah, we're live on YouTube, that's for sure. And I'm trying to get this running.
I'll send out a tweet right now, giving the invite.
Okay. Can you see me in Discord? And Discord, can you hear me? Let's start with that. We're trying this, Discord friends. Okay. Trying to live stream while also virtual camera streaming at the same time to Discord. This is fun.
Nice.
Let's see. I'm going to drop the chat. If it's not working here, please join here. And shout out to Yana, who is always helping on the back end. This is a special office hours, so I was unable to, unfortunately, get her in here. And so we're just going to drop that in the chat. Please, if you're in Discord and you want to watch this special episode, join in the Graph YouTube. And I think we have everything ready for the most part. How are we doing there, Kevin? Are you all ready to get going?
Dude, ready to rock. Let's do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and introduce what you're going to be doing. For those of you who don't know, Kevin Jones and I, we work together at Edge and Node, building the graph every day. And there's a new product out, and Kevin is going to introduce that product in a new way. And Kevin, take it away and share what you're going to be sharing today.
Amazing. Cool. Thanks so much for having me. I miss coming on the office hours every time I come in. It's just great to be here and teach some people, teach some builders how to do some cool stuff. And so today I'm going to be talking about a special build of ScaffoldETH that I created that is really just meant to make it easier for people to build using the token API, which if anyone hasn't, there's been a session on that, you can watch that. The token API is an awesome tool if you're going to want to get some information that's up to date, a lot of stuff that you can't maybe get with the graph, right? So it's just a really cool thing to have in your tool belt, especially if you're working on a hackathon project. It's really cool. So it's going to be built on ScaffoldETH. So I'll talk a little bit about ScaffoldETH first, just so everyone who hasn't heard of ScaffoldETH knows what it is, and then we'll dive into the code and see kind of how it works and try to maybe even build something if we have time. So okay, so let me share my screen, and we'll go to entire screen here. And by the way, feel free to interrupt me, ask questions if anything comes through and people have a question. First let's just talk about ScaffoldETH real quick. I talk about it a lot. I'm one of the members of the Build Guild, so I help support new developers using this tool. So it was my entry into Ethereum. When I first got building, I really didn't know what to pick, what chains.
I'll also say it was mine too. It was my first step into Ethereum years ago. Loved it.
Nice. Yeah, so it's just a great entry point, and it's really good for hackathons because it comes with literally everything you need. It's built, it's a Yarn repo, so it's basically a mono repo with a bunch of stuff that you can use. It's got a chain, it's got a front end, it's got all the plumbing hooked up, so you don't have to worry about hooking up your wallet. It's also got some cool stuff like what's called a burner wallet, which I'll show, and it can be easily spun up here with this npx create ETH command. And there's also this extension system, which the example that I'm going to be showing today is in a repo that we just made public actually today. It's the examples repo on the Graph Protocol GitHub. So you can go to Graph Protocol GitHub, go to examples, and you'll see there's a token API folder. And great job to Marcus. He created this awesome structure. He created a quick start, a tax demo, and then I created this like token API ScaffoldETH build. So this is kind of what we're going to be going over. It's labeled as an SDK. It's kind of an SDK because it basically has some hooks and components. We'll dive into those. But I want to talk just a little bit more about ScaffoldETH and why I use ScaffoldETH. The first thing is ScaffoldETH has a lot of stuff that makes it easy for you to like start building a smart contract. So you can choose Hard Hat or Foundry. The example I'm using is Hard Hat, but you could easily rip that out and put Foundry in. We're not actually going to be doing any like smart contract stuff, but it's just good to know that it's there so that you can build something with it. And it's got this really cool way that you can like use components, which are, you know, like easy composable things to do things like display an address in a cool way, or do like ENS resolution. And so there's a bunch of components, balances, address input, a lot of that stuff. You can go to the docs here, docs.scaffoldeth.io, and they're really good docs. And then there's this ability to read and write from your contract as well. So if you want to read something from the contract, or you want to write something to a contract, or if you want to look at events, or if you want to use this cool thing called the transactor, which shows you like a pop-up. So it's just it's a really good starter kit. So enough about ScaffoldETH. We'll be showing it off here. The token API itself, again, it's an example implementation. So the token API, you know, it's a regular API. So you could sign up for the token API and you can do like fetch commands and get like the data you need with a token that you can sign up for. But the reason why you would use this is there are hooks included as well. So first of all, let's just get it spun up first, and then we can kind of like dig through it a little bit. So I've already kind of cloned this kind of examples project here. And I've already gone into the token API folder and then into the token API ScaffoldETH folder. And so I think I've already done the Yarn install as well, but you'll want to do that. So when you first get the project set up, install all the dependencies. ScaffoldETH requires Node.js version, I think 18 or above, and it needs Yarn version 2 or above. I can't remember exactly what version of Yarn, but just make sure you have the most recent version of Yarn. And we're just looking at a bunch of terminals here. So I'm using Tmux to split my screen, but you could just open these in like other terminals. You need a few terminals open to use ScaffoldETH. You need one for your chain. Even though we're not going to use a chain, we're going to spin it up so we don't get any errors on our front end. And you need one for your front end, and then you need one to do your deploys. And also, this project also has the subgraph extension as well. So if I talked about it earlier, but there's an extension system of ScaffoldETH, and there's one for building subgraphs. So for a hackathon project, this is perfect because it comes with all three of those. It comes with the chain, it comes with the front end, it comes with the subgraph, and then it also comes with all those hooks and components that I've built to have you interact with the token API. So it's a really good starter point if you just want to use the graph, especially for like a hackathon or something like that. And so we're going to spin up the chain first. So if anyone's watched any of my ScaffoldETH demos or workshops, it's always the same thing, same flow. Yarn install all your dependencies. Yarn chain will spin up the blockchain for you. Yarn start will spin up the front end for you, right? So it is React with Next.js. It's going to spin it up on localhost port 3000, right? So you can see it's up and running. And so then this last one is where you would do like a deploy. So again, we're not going to use the smart contract, but I'm just going to deploy it to show you so that if you decide that you want to write a smart contract, it comes with a smart contract. It's called Your Contract, and it's kind of like a hello world contract. It's very simple. All it does is has a greeting, and then it has a way for you to change that greeting with a function. But again, we're not going to actually touch the smart contract at all because we're going to be focusing on the token API. So let me load up the project for you in Cursor here. So if you've got all that and you've seen all these displays, you're up and running. So the chain, you'll see these blocks as we deploy a contract. You'll see the front end, and then you'll see when you do the deploy that you get a transaction hash and you get a contract address, and it tells you how much gas you used, and it also will print out some information from the smart contract. And then this last thing is really cool too. It builds types for all of the functions and variables that are inside of your smart contract, which makes it easy to interact with using the built-in ScaffoldETH hooks. and components. So it helps you build an app. So anyway, so we have it set up here. Get some errors, which is just telling me, oh, you know what? I actually don't want to use. I have this one already set up. So I open up the project here out of the root and then just navigate into it. That's the best practice, I think, at this point, because it's an example repo. So that way you can kind of reference other stuff if you need to. But so you'll see here that we have the root of this is this token API folder. And then we have a token API ScaffoldETH folder. And so this is where the project sits. And so inside there, you can see I've made some changes, and I'll talk about those in a little bit here. But you can see that it's a mono repo. Let me make my screen a little bigger, so just in case. Okay, so it's a mono repo. So what that means is that it has 3 packages. So it has the hard hat package, which is where your contract sits and your deploy script for that. But again, we're not going to be focusing on the chain at all. And then we have Next.js, which is the front end, right? So it's where we're going to spend a lot of our time today. Well, all of our time today. And then there's the subgraph folder, which comes with a subgraph as well for the contract that's in your contract. So if you're getting started and you don't understand subgraphs, it's a good way to understand what a subgraph looks like inside here as well. So there's a lot of videos of me talking about the subgraph extension and I think I've been on the office hours talking about it, so you can look that up. But I'm not going to be focusing on that today. Today we're going to be focusing in Next.js, right? And so the Next.js is using configured to use app router. So that gives us the ability to have URI-based folder structure of all of our URLs. And the meat and potato of where we're going to focus is in this token API path right here. There is the one thing I will tell you is that in order to get this set up and working, there's one thing you need to do, and you need to come into this env example and copy this particular thing into your env. So I'm not going to show it because this has my token. But if you want to set it up, you need to go to, what is it? The graph market. I forget not market cap. We don't want to look at that right now, but the graph market. So it's graph.market. And you can come here and say, get an API key from here. And just make sure that you get the JWT token, because that's the key you need to use. It's a little, it says key, but it's actually a token. So you need to use that. And so we've got this set up. Before I dive into the actual structure of the token API, which is in here, I want to showcase what it looks like. So I want to give a little bit of a demo. And so to do that, we can load up ScaffoldETH, which is available here on port 3000. So let me just reload it to make sure that we get the current instance. Let me hide this. And I'm going to keep my developer console open because I want to just kind of show off some of the stuff that we're going to do. Okay, so this is what ScaffoldETH looks like. Again, if you've seen any of my workshops, it's the same thing. You have this kind of basic page that's in the root that just gives you some hints of where you go to make changes to your application and where you go to make changes to your smart contract. And then it talks about the debug contracts tab, which is useful if you're writing smart contracts and you want to test a smart contract. And then there's a block explorer built in as well. And there's a link down here for that as well. So this is just a hello world page. The subgraph page is a working example of how you would query a subgraph and tells you how to set up the subgraph. Again, out of scope of what we're going to talk about today, but let me just at least show it real quick. It has the instructions on how to spin up the graph running locally on your machine using Docker. And so you can run these four commands here, and then this fifth one to clean up data, and you'll have a working subgraph environment. So that's really cool. But where I want to focus today is this token API. So for this project, what I did is I basically created a hook for every single API endpoint that is available. And so if we go to the graph docs and we can take a look at this. If we go to the graph docs and we go to token API and we go to EVM endpoints, we can see what endpoints we have. We have a balance endpoint, balances, transfers, historical data for an address, token holders, the metadata of a particular token, the open, high, low, close. I think that's what it is. Yeah, open, high, low, close. for the contract or for a pool, and then liquidity pools that are coming from Uniswap v2 and v3, and then also swaps that are coming from v2 and v3. And we're always evolving this. We're adding more and more endpoints, and as these endpoints get added, we'll add those to our repo and our example. Okay, so again, if you want to set this up, you just need to put in that token, start up your environment, and you'll get going. So what are we looking at here? So inside of this page are basically components that are just useful for kind of like a reference of how you interact with the hooks to get the data that you care about. So we can actually test these directly from here and see if they work. So if we say, okay, well, what are the token balances by an address? It's this kind of like a little collapsible thing. And we can say Vitalik.eth, and we can choose a chain, right? And then we can fetch the balances, right? And so when we fetch this, it will go out, hit the API, and then get back the data inside of this like pretty little UI. So we can see all of the meme coins that everyone sends Vitalik, and also his USDC balance, which I don't know if that's right. I think that, well, might be. And then he has some Tether as well. And so you can see what's cool about this is we're using ScaffoldETH components to render the contract address here. And we're using all of this component is built with Daisy UI, and the effects of the application can be altered with Tailwind CSS, which is part of ScaffoldETH as well. So these can be very customizable. So you'll notice we have this ENS resolution, which is the address input component of ScaffoldETH. We have this little blocky guy. And so we do this resolution. So if I was to type in atg.eth, that didn't work for a second. It's kind of weird. Okay, there we go. So now we get Austin's, and we can see Austin's balances, or mine, whatever. You get the idea. Or you can just put in an address. And so this is the token balances. We can continue down and kind of look at these. There's one for token contract address. So we can grab this, put the contract address in there, choose the same thing, choose a network. We get a network selector. We can say we want to see the highest balances, and we want to see the top 50 holders. And so this will give us the holders of a particular contract. So this one is GRT. So we can see all of the GRT whales that we have here. So these are like the most, the accounts that hold the most amount of GRT. And we have those. And it looks like the pagination is not, oh yeah, the pagination might not be working correctly. So that might need to be fixed, but it's not perfect. We get some API errors. That might be why. It could be that I'm just not setting the right range. So there might be some work that needs to be done. So the good thing is you can put in a pull request if anyone wants to help me with it. And then we can also look at like token transfers. So let's look at Vitalik.eth. Same thing, ENS resolution, and we can look at whatever network we care about, the amount of time. So we could say like last 7 days, only give me 10 results, and then fetch these transfers. And we're doing some console logs so we can kind of see what the data looks like as well. And so we can see here that there's been some transfers of REIT token, GPectra token, baby dog, Kato, bull. So we've seen all of the transfers to Vitalik, in the last 7 days. These are the top 10, and then this one pagination should work, and we can get the next things. Yeah, there we go. So we can kind of like flip through those and kind of see those. And then we'll continue on. So now we have token metadata. So same thing here. We can get like the information for a particular token. So I put in the graph token. So we can see the contract address, what chain it is, the total circulating supply, how many holders, and then like when it was last updated and what block number that the API is responding with. And then we can also do historical balances. So let's do Vitalik again. Vitalik is such an easy target to see all the stupid stuff going on in his account. Okay, so historical balances. So we can see like some his open, high, low, and close data for his address. And we can kind of adjust that as well here. And I'm not sure if this use minimal parameters works. I need to remember what I did with that, but yeah, I need to double check. Okay, so then this last part, we can also do like look at a pool for the open, high, low, close. So there's some examples here for like different chains. So we'll do the mainnet one. So this is a Uniswap v3 ETH to USDC pool. So this is the contract or the pool address for the contract. And same thing, we can adjust like what we want. So we can say 1 hour over the last 24 hours and hit fetch data. And then we can kind of get that pool data as well. That doesn't seem right. Let me try changing this query a little bit. Could be this one's broken. Oh no, there it is. Sorry, it's just down below. I didn't see it. So yeah, so we have the timestamp, open, high, low, close. So it's just like a UI example of kind of how you would do some of this. Obviously, these can be altered and manipulated. We'll go into the code and we'll look at them a little bit. We'll continue on. So now we have OHLC data endpoint. Hit fetch. So very similar to the pools, but here we're just getting the contract data. The same thing. We get this pagination thing, which doesn't look like it's actually working correctly. So there could be some other bugs I need to go through. And then this one, you don't need to put any information. You can just get like the most recent pools that are available on Uniswap. And you can choose which version of Uniswap, what network that you want to check. You can also filter by a token and hit search. And so this will kind of show you what people are trading or swapping. So Moon, make sure you buy some Moon today. Baron, so these are all the swaps that are going on in the past, I guess like recently. There are probably some other parameters that we could add here to kind of do some filtering, but we could look at that, at adding that later. And then the last thing is swaps. So this is going to list out all the swaps that have happened. So there we go. So we can see the swaps. Some people traded WETH for trade. So yeah, so these are all like working examples of like how you would interact with the API. So they're components, they're visual components. They technically could be reused, but they're probably going to need to be customized. So they're really just as a reference. Let's take a look at those real quick in the code. Okay, so if we go into the token API folder, we have the hooks, the types, we have some config stuff that we do and some utilities to like alter content sometimes as it comes off of the API. But if we look at the components, we can get a list of all of these components. Let's look at those in a second. First, let's take a look at the hooks and what those look like. So the way that we do the hook, the API calls with the hooks in here is we have this very high level hook that's called use token API. And this use token API essentially uses a set of networks, right? So that the token API supports. It has an interface for like what the API response should look like. And then it also has some options as well for the token API options, which is for like skip and refetch. And it's basically just a single implementation of how you would hit the proxy. Now we also have the proxy configured. So if you see right here, the API URL is hitting localhost. We're just routing it here to /API token proxy. And so if we come up here to the top and look at the app, if you're familiar with Next.js, if you're using App Router, you create what's called an API route, and you have a specific API route for when you want to route stuff using like server-side rendering. And so we rely on that so that you can basically put your JOT inside of your build parameters when you build your application and ship it, so that you don't have the JOT floating around. And you would probably need some way to like really productionize this and make it work, where you could like rotate that and stuff like that. But for the most part, this is how we've implemented it. So the basic concept is that we're using Next request and response, which comes from Next server. We formulate the URL based off of the root endpoint. So in this case, it's the token API.thegraph.com. If you had your own instance of the token API for some reason, you could just replace this, or you can replace this inside of your environment variable. So if we go over here, like an example would be if you want to hit the staging environment for the token API, you would put it here, which is rate limited. So if you're using production, you don't need to change it. But inside of there, so if we go to the app API route and then route back there again, we can basically see what happens. It's just sending GET requests, and it's attaching the proper, constructing the URL based off wherever it's trying to get the data. And then it's basically coming back with the data, okay? And so it kind of does some checking It does some logging so that you know what's going on in the console, so that you can kind of like debug it a little bit, and it just kind of like shows you the flow, and then it basically gets back the data. Otherwise it will like give you an error and like give you back the error response. So this route is, like I said, it's a local route that you'll run on your application when you deploy it. And again, these hooks use that. So this high level hook is basically what is calling the API endpoint and constructing it as needed, and sending the request. Okay, so we have that here. This is where we actually get back the data and return the data. And all of these hooks reference this main hook. So this use token API is kind of used in all of these. So if we look at an example, let's use token balances right here. So use token balances is a hook. And so what that means is it can take in parameters and basically make that API request for you. And it also has interface basically that defines like what the data should look like. And so that makes it really easy because you can write your front end, and it will help you kind of explore your options as you're starting to make these API requests with the hooks. And we'll look at what those look like in the components so you can kind of see an example. And so we have some like parameter settings, and then we can see here where is the actual hook. So it takes in a wallet address, it has some filter parameters that are optional, it also has some hook options, and then it returns the token balances data and their functions, right? And so, yeah, the cool thing is that with the hooks, you don't really need to understand what is going on in the hook to really debug, because it's got all the types built for you. All you need to understand is like giving it the context of what you want to request and then how you want that data to come back. And then eventually it just comes back with the data right here. And it formats it as well. If there's some kind of like helper, like in this case, I don't know exactly what we're doing, but it looks like if it's an array, then we like append the data or something like that. And so that might be actually what's wrong with some of my components, is they're not properly like appending data or something like that. Okay, so this is an example of like use token balance. So we know that the token balance comes back with this type of data. And we also know that, this is the token balance data, and then this is like the data inside of this other interface, which is the response. And then we have some other things like statistics, and if we're doing like pagination or something like that. So it's very well organized for you to be able to interact with the API. So if we look at use token balance, then we can also look at get balances here and kind of see how we do this, right? So inside the component, we basically decide what component a couple things. We want to get the network name. So we want to decide what network. So we have a config called EVM networks, which keeps track of the networks that are supported. We have the actual network ID that comes from the use token API hook as well. And then here is where we import the types and the hook from the use token balances right here, the interface. And so we basically have some like state that we manage, right? To like for people typing into stuff, or if you're like, want to set default values for something, right? That's what we use state for here. We also use the ScaffoldETH address and address input component, right? Which is basically like what you see here, right? And the address is for the response data. The address input is for basically what we see here in this little thing right here. And here's where we actually send the hook. This is where we use the hook. So we say, okay, well, we want to get back some data. If it's loading, then we say, well, it's loading. If there's an error, then we say it's an API error. And then we also do a refetch if needed, and we call the use token balances hook. We pass in the wallet address, and then we pass in the selected network as the parameter. So that's basically what we're doing here inside this. And then we also specify like a default page size or something. This might actually be hard coded somewhere, but we can take a look. And then whether it should only fetch or refetch, like if we're skipping or how we're getting that. So this is where you might change behavior based on your use case. You might like, again, not need to like take in information from people. You just might want to just pass in this data in the hook like this, and you can just pass it in here or get it from some other source, right? Like a connected wallet or whatever it is you're trying to do. And then here we use the use effect to basically go out and try to call and get that data. So we do some logging, we do some normalizing of the data, different things to make it look pretty. And then we set what the balances are using this normalized balance. And then there's also this array to see if it's an array, and then if needed, basically turn it into an array. And what else? So we're doing the API call separately, I believe. Yeah, so if there's an error, we kind of check that. And then if there's someone changes the network, we can check that. And then here's where we actually fetch using the API call as well. So like I said, this is a good example for you to kind of see, like for an example for this one, this is 331 lines of code just to kind of like have what we display here. So it's a little, I guess it's a more complex example, but it's really good if you're like building a UI and you kind of want to understand how you can interact with those hooks. Okay, so there's also inside, so I'm not going to go into every hook because I think it's one of those things that you just need to look at. And also in terms of like if you start building with it, inside of here, all of the hooks are documented. So if we go to use token metadata, you'll get all the details on like what the hook looks like, what parameters that you need to send, what the response object looks like, right? And we have that for every single hook, so you can kind of use this as a reference. Also, because it's all TypeScript, if you're writing it with like an AI editor, it's really good because it can go out, read all the types, and kind of understand what the data looks like as well. So the README is, honestly, a lot of this README is generated with AI. So if you find bugs or any issues, let me know. But I've kind of gone through and used it as a reference to build a special workshop. And so I want to talk about that next. The workshop is basically, it's kind of a long workshop, but it covers every single aspect of, this is not loading. Oh yeah, it is here. So if we go to Token API ScaffoldETH, there's a special workshop.md file right here. And this is basically an example of how you would just call the data using each hook and how you would just console log that data out to the console.
Kevin, we got a question in chat, if that's all right.
Yeah, for sure.
The question in chat is, can we fetch all the tokens for multiple chains? I mean, can set multiple networks as parameters in network_ID.
The token API does not support, I don't think, multiple chains at the same time. So it would be 2 or 3 or 4 subsequent hooks that you would write to get that data, and then you would need to like put it back together. But I don't believe that the API supports multiple.
And I second that. As far as I know, that is correct. The chains, I think there's around 7 or 8 now supported, but not at the same time.
Yeah. So that's a good thing for maybe us to think about, like what that would look like to support that. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't think there's any way to do it now. Oh, sorry. Okay. Any other questions?
No other questions at this time.
No. Okay. So this workshop, again, it's kind of a walkthrough of like how you can set up state, how you can import the hooks that you need. So if we could look here, the basic structure is that you use effect and use state. You bring in the networks that you want that you care about inside of EVM networks. If there's a new network that gets added, if I haven't put it in, you can just add it in here to this file. And these are all the hooks. So again, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 endpoints. So there's a hook for every endpoint. And then there's the types, so this is just the network ID, which comes from types. And then we're using ScaffoldETH address input for some validation. And then here's where we'd like start to build out the application. And so this is a very basic starting point. And then this workshop kind of walks you through as you want to do things, right? So how you set the selected network with state, how you just set a contract address with state, wallet address, a pool address, and then how you actually do timestamps, like if you want to make it look pretty in your application, and then also like timestamp values. Like this kind of shows you how you can like convert the data that's coming off the API so that it's more human readable. And then we do some like logging where we like can log this data to the actual console for you so that you can look and see what the data looks like. We'll show it in a second. And then there are these hooks that, again, we have examples for each hook that pass in the data. So we get back the data, we see if it's loading or if it has errors, and then we pass the contract address and the selected network and get back the data. And we do that for these three. They're all the same: metadata, balance data, holder data, transfer data. Transfer data is a little more complex because we have to limit how many responses we get. There's some kind of issue, I think, maybe with how many responses you get. So you have to pass a limit parameter. This is like, I'm not sure exactly what this one is. I think it has to do with, maybe 1 per day. Yeah, 1 per day. Yeah, so this we're just getting one per day. And then same thing here. So this one gets a little more complex. When we do the open, high, low, close, we need to pack the contract address. We need to pass the network. We also need to pass a time frame in seconds, a limit. We need to set timestamps, I think. So daily timestamps and the start and end time. So we need to tell exactly what window we care about, right? Same thing goes for pool data. We need the token, we need the network ID and the token, and we need the page size. And so again, this is a real just working example of what you can do to query this data. And you'll want to look at the docs for the endpoints to figure out, or you can look at the hooks to see what that should look like as well. Okay, and then the last part is like building the user interface. So like what you see in the display. This is probably the less interesting part, but yeah. And then you can run this. So this is actually running. It's inside of here. Let's take a look. So I included it in the repo. So when you go to Token API and you go to Workshop and you go to Page, this is a one single page application that's just referencing the hooks that I created, referencing the config file for the networks and the network ID types, and it's using ScaffoldETH address input, and then it's utilizing this special like type for how we want to log to the console. And this full example basically has all the hooks that it does. It's working 100% for mainnet. I don't know if it's working for every network, but it might need to be altered. I'll probably do some work on it this week to make sure that it's good. But this is a full example. So you see with like 298 lines of code, basically what we have here is a fetch for every single API endpoint inside of the token API, and with console logging. So let's go to ScaffoldETH and let's go to /workshop. So you could follow along that workshop and go through it one by one. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to put people to sleep with my typing. But what you'll get is this. So it is got a selector. It's got the pre-filled contract address for, it's hard to read, sorry about that. Let me see if I can make it look better. The contract address, the pool address for Uniswap, and a wallet address as an example. And it's got the timestamp range when needed, right? And so what we see is actually when we just hit refresh, it makes all the calls. So here in the console, get rid of this for right now, we can see all the fetch requests. So you can see here that all the API requests are done using the API route, so API/token proxy, and it's specifying the parameters and all of the stuff inside of the path, inside of the arguments, minus the API key, which the API or the API JOT, which is coming from the environment variable. And so it's like I said, it's hiding the API key. And then we have the data that comes back. So here we can look at metadata, and we can see the it's null here, but let's see if we get it. It could be that it was taking a while. Let me come down here. Raw token metadata response. There we go. So at first it was null up here, and then it was set down here. So we get the objects. So here's the address, the block number, the circulating supply, the let me see if I can make this a little bigger. That was very hard to read. The date, time, the decimals, the amount of holders, the icon, and what else? Name, network ID, symbol. So it's basically got, I don't think the Web3 icon is working actually. I think that should probably be a URL, but I'm not sure about the API. I need to double check. Yeah, so that's an example. So it's logging all of the responses. So we can look at the one for token metadata, and we can see the one response that came back. Oh, that's the same one, sorry. Let's see if I can find a different one. So we have like the raw, and then we have the formatted. So we log both. Oh, here, let's look at use token transfers. So here we can see all the token transfers for Vitalik. And so we get the raw data, and so we could dive into one particular one and kind of see what the structure looks like. And so that was this much sent from this contract address. That's funny. That's a funny contract address. I don't know if that's right or if that's a bug or what, or someone just like randomly did this because it's ETH, which looks suspicious. Yeah, someone sent like 0.0000001 ETH in value to Vitalik from this contract, so seems shady. But anyway, so we get that raw data here, and so that will allow you to then take this example and really build it out. Since we have like 15 minutes, I'm just curious if we could like maybe try to like vibe code something interesting here. In like
Go for it.
like a one shot, you know what I mean? Because I feel like maybe what we could do, yeah. So I just want to see how this thing, because I've actually not done this yet, and I've been wanting to do it. I've just been so busy. But maybe what we can do is let's alter this workshop example, because we already know it's working. It's getting all the data. Let's alter this workshop page. Oh, that's not the right one. Oh, by the way, I want to talk about one more thing. I haven't pushed it yet, but I created a ScaffoldETH token API MDC file, which kind of has like a little guidance for if you're using AI. If anyone doesn't know what an MDC file is, if you're using an AI model, it kind of will check it. It's markdown, I forget what the C stands, markdown context. And so it kind of just tells your AI, it gives the AI context. And so I've pre-programmed it with like some examples and like where to go to get the data that it needs. And maybe like, you know, all the components that are available, so it can like just alter those ones. And so it's a really good thing if you're using Cursor. So let's say, okay, let's modify this page to be more like a user wallet. And let's use the connected wallet from ScaffoldETH to grab the API data or something like that, using the token API hooks. Make it look like a cool wallet. I don't know. Okay, let's just see if it does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect here. I'm going to connect with a wallet that actually might have some data, because that's a burner wallet. So another thing about ScaffoldETH is you have this burner wallet, which is kind of like a browser wallet. So this wallet has never seen the light of day. It's like a generated wallet inside of the application. So it's pretty much useless. Oh, no, it's not useless, but it's useless for the token API demo. It's awesome for development because you can just make calls inside of the browser without having to sign with MetaMask and worry about like nonce errors. But in this case, we want to use like a wallet that we know has some stuff. So I'm going to use my MetaMask just to like see if that works. So I'm connected with MetaMask, and so now I'll execute this thing, and let's just see what it does. I'm just very curious. By the way, this could completely fail and not do anything.
and we've entered the vibe coding session. Shout out to Crypto Vibes. We have a weekly Crypto Vibes show, Kevin and I, and it's a lot of fun and more casual than an official workshop for sure. But I feel like this is the way the industry is heading anyways. So this just makes sense.
I've already started vibing for today, so.
Yes.
So while this is loading, so basically what it's doing is it going out and reading all that stuff and like determining, well, what did I really need to do? What's cool is because all the types are written, all the interfaces, I should say, and well, which are types. It's coming up with a plan, and all the hooks are there. It's probably going to be able to do a pretty good job. Only thing I'm not worried about is that I'm running everything locally. I just need to make sure I tell it to use like mainnet or something like that. That might not work, but we'll see. Any questions, by the way? If anyone, this is a great time to ask questions. Please ask questions.
I haven't seen any questions currently. Polly B commented about the 0xEEEEE. And it seems like that's the native address for ETH on Ethereum.
Oh, I did not know that. See?
Yeah.
You always learn something new every day.
Yeah, or at least
so
that's in different aggregators, he's saying. So I'm trying to read up on that. It's interesting.
Well, like ETH is not ERC20, right? It's the native token.
Correct. It's not an ERC20.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, so that's the contract for the native asset. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, now all linting was resolved. Wow, I'm just really excited to see what this looks like. Oh, it's not very fancy, but it's a wallet. My wallet connector 404, no data found. Okay, let's just give it this and see what it does. It's probably because it's, I think what I just said, it's like trying to use like local. Maybe if I change my browser to mainnet here, I'm just curious if it's going to do anything. Oh no. Let's see. I want to check mainnet Ethereum. Let's see if it actually can do anything. While it's doing, I'm just going to look and see. It says 404, no data found. So I think it just didn't use the right address, maybe. Yeah, that's the right one. Can't find the token, but I should have token on mainnet. So let's just see here. I should have data for this address. Yeah, so it's literally coming back with no data found, which is kind of weird. That means that the API is responding. It's just doesn't show any data for that address. So it makes me wonder. Access. It's not helping me very much. Oh, let me turn off auto. I want to use this one. Let me just do it one more time.
Sure.
Close all chats. Where's the error at? Let's do it with this model. The other, I think it was probably using, fix this. It was probably using Gemini. Or no, sorry, it was probably using, oh my God, totally thinking right now. Claude. And I've noticed Claude just like, I don't know, it's not as good as Gemini. We talked about this last week. Okay, so it's trying to debug for me. That's cool. I like when it does that. Just lets me be lazy and kind of get all the data we care about. Let's just try that and just see. We got 9 minutes to get this working.
I believe.
I believe too. Oh, so yeah, I think it is something with the network. So see, it's trying to use hard hat or something weird. But maybe because it took away the oh, I don't want hard hat though. Oh, AI. No. I want to just search Ethereum mainnet. This is not doing as well as I hoped it would. I wonder if I need to actually give it some more context. Okay. Why? What? Oh, he's deleting it. Yes. Thank you. Go back. All right. What would you do at this point? I'm curious, Marcus.
You know, I would keep on just pounding it with vibe code vibes.
Just put on your sunglasses.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we do have a few more minutes, and just want to say, you know, as this is going with the token API, we're looking for feedback. And so what that means, we need builders to give it a go. And there's a few different ways to use token API right now. And so the token API is available. I shared the docs in the chat. I'll share them also a few different places. I shared the repo that you're using, Kevin. And so, I mean, yeah, if you're in chat and you haven't used it yet, get out there. We're actively pushing on this internally. We're actively looking for feedback. All of those things are important as we're building. And so it needs builders to build. And so keep on going with it. Keep on going with it.
Yeah, I think the token API has a lot of planned expansion. And so, yeah, it's going to be a really good tool to have in your belt, like if you're a developer to have, because, you know, there's a lot of these like centralized APIs and yeah, there's just, I think it'll be a good tool, especially for hackathons, because people are always trying to get like token API information or something like that. Yeah, so start building with it and let us know.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. This is not working. It's failing miserably.
That is okay. That is expected. And I won't put any more pressure on you. You did a great job there, Kevin. That was a good learning experience for me. That was a great learning experience for me. And yeah, man, that's a great build. Great job with that repo. And we will be doing more in that examples repo in the future. We're sharing more examples. We're trying to get more examples out there for builders to get going quick. And the ScaffoldETH is a great example. So make sure that you star it. Make sure you take a note of it and keep on using that if you haven't, just to see what it can do and keep on building with that. So
yeah.
Anything else that you want to share, Kevin, before we go? There's no more questions I'm seeing, but we have an audience here. Just curious if you want to share anything else about ScaffoldETH, the Graph and Token API.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, follow me on Twitter if anyone doesn't. It's cryptomastery_. And yeah, just join our vibe code session every Friday that we've been doing. This week it's Wednesday.
Yes,
10 a.m.
it's Wednesday. Yes, this week it's changed to Wednesday. But yes, we will be vibing and enjoying, and I'm looking forward to that one with you there too, Kevin. So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for everyone joining in chat. Thank you for everyone joining in the live stream, and looking forward to see you on the Twitter, YouTube. What else do we have? Riverside chat.
I just want to say it just started
Discord.
Working, by the way.
It just started, of course.
But it wasn't working on mainnet. Maybe I don't have a balance on that contract on mainnet, so it showed my Alexander token on base.
There you go. Perfect. Yes, great session, says Paolo. How you doing, Paolo? Thank you for tuning in. All right, everyone. Well, take care, and thank you again, Kevin. Take care, everyone.
Good seeing you.